for which it
Recording in
stands,
progress.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so let's start with open forum. So actually, the first thing that I would like to announce for open forum, which was pointed out to me this week, is that 50 years ago today, or 50 years ago this week, was the first meeting of the Westford, at that time called Board of Selectmen, that included a woman. And while she told me that this wasn't really the news, I will say that the first woman member of the select board was Ellen Hardy.
Wow.
It only took 52 years after women got the right to vote to get a woman on the select board in Westford. But, you know, we have made it. And since 1992, a woman has been on the select board every single year for the last 30 years. So I just wanted to announce that tonight. Next. Congratulations to the Westford Academy theater production of Weird Sisters, The Tragedy of Macbeth. Their production was named the regional finals winner at the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild's regional round held at Leominster High School last week. You know, this is not the first time that the Academy has been a regional finals winner. Our theater arts program has just, I think as we all know, just exploded over the years and is really well known and well recognized throughout the state. 12 Westford Academy students were named to the All-Star Company, and they include Alex Ross for excellence in acting in the role of Macbeth, Lauren Trethaway for excellence in acting in the role of Lady Macbeth, Lucas Pender for excellence in acting in the role of Lennox, Olivia Alzawi, Gabby Saunders, Lauren Trethaway for excellence in acting in the role of the Weird Sisters Witches, Andrew Green, Ethan Mandil, Avery Piazza, Michael Ross for excellence in technical design, set design, and Noah Ablove, Ethan Mandil, Chrissy Richard for excellence in technical design, atmospheric design, in lighting and sound design. Congratulations to all of you, and great job. Okay, next, do want to announce for everybody in the community that on Monday, April 18th, which is Patriots Day, the town is going to be undergoing a phone upgrade project. And so while individual phone numbers at Town Hall and throughout the town will not be available, 911 will be available. And if residents need to reach any other town department on April 18th, then you should call 978-727-8888, and your call will be redirected. So just for folks to know, that number is 978-727-8888. Then the next announcement I have is that there is a public forum on this Thursday, April 14th from 7 to 9 p.m. Concerning the tree and invasive species inventory and management plan. It is being held by Zoom. And is this up on the town website, Jody or Eric, so that people who want to attend can register at the Zoom link?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go to the town website and you'll find the link there if you'd like to register for the tree and invasive species inventory and management plan, which will be held this Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. And then last but not least is the deadline to register to vote is Wednesday, April 13th. And the new polling places and locations, and everybody should have gotten a postcard that is telling them where their new polling location is going into effect for town elections. And town elections are Tuesday, May 3rd. And if you have questions, one, you can call the town clerk's office, who I'm sure will be very happy to answer your questions. Or you can go to a link, which is 2022 election information, www.2022 election information. And those are all the announcements I have. I don't know if, and looks like Tom has an announcement to make as well.
I think Diane Wood put the same thing in the Q&A. Just to remind everybody that the League of Women Voters candidate night is tomorrow from 7 to 9, and you'll have a chance to learn about the many candidates generous enough with their time to consider running for office here in Westford.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have anything for open forum? Oops. Oh, that was Diane's. Okay. I'm not seeing any. So let's go to our 7:05 p.m. item, which is our consent agenda. And we have a request to approve the following: a flag hoisting event to commemorate the 107th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. The applicants are John and Violet Dagdigian of the Armenian National Committee of Merrimack Valley. The location is the temporary flagpole on Town Common. The date is Friday, April 22nd at 10 a.m. We have a street closure request for the Apple Blossom Parade by the Kiwanis Club, closing the streets of Main Street, Depot, Hildreth, Lincoln, Forge Village Road, Graniteville, and Boston Road on Saturday, May 14th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And then we have banner requests for Memorial Day. The applicant is Ryan Copley, our Veteran Services Officer, in front of the J.V. Fletcher Library from Sunday, May 22nd to Wednesday, June 1st. The next one is for Westford Academy graduation. The applicant is Westford Education Foundation in front of Abbott School from Thursday, May 26th to Sunday, June 5th. Then by the West Fest Family Fun Festival, say that 3 times fast, in front of the parish church, First Parish Church, and that's from Saturday, September 17th to Tuesday, September 22nd. And then we have a request for the Town Common and Bandstand Easter Sunrise Service. The applicant is the First Parish Church, Sunday, April 17th from 6:45 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. And then a request by the Cornerstone Congregational Church for Easter morning church service on Sunday, April 17th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then a request from Ryan Copley for Memorial Day for Sunday, May 29th, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Subject to public safety comments, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item, we have a public hearing for violation of General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34, sale of alcohol beverages to persons under 21 years of age at the Westford Market and Liquors store at 6 Carlisle Road. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. And is there a motion to waive reading of the public hearing notice?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, Jim, you want to start?
Good evening, everyone. Just like you said, I here for a liquor law violation for Westford Market and Liquors located at 6 Carlisle Road. Just to point out, I was here in front of the board back on October 26th for 2 violations at the same business. One was on September 23rd and the other one was on October 6th, where the board took action. Also, I was privileged to work with some town officials after that on some new requirements for package stores, for training, and some requirements for employees that was implemented on November 9th of 2021. So this is a new incident.
But it's the third one, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you just very briefly just want to go through, we've all got your reports, so you don't have to go through the full report, but just very, briefly, if you could summarize.
Sure, absolutely. On Thursday, March 17, 2022, one of our officers was conducting surveillance in the parking lot of Westford Market and Liquors at 6 Carlisle Road. The officer took attention to a vehicle that was parked to the left of the business a few rows back. They watched an individual exit the vehicle, go inside the store. At that time, the officer believed that the individual who went into the store was under 21 years of age. They were able to observe inside the store this individual purchasing a blue case of bottles, which the officer believed to be alcoholic beverages. Just using some investigative techniques, running the vehicle, figure it out who lived at the address, the officer was able to determine that the person that he observed going in was under 21 years of old. By the time he got the license photo and sort of made that positive identification, the person had exited the store, placed the item in the car and started to drive off. So the officer ended up conducting a motor vehicle stop on Boston Road. The officer approached the vehicle. The individual that they saw go in the store was the lone occupant. He immediately saw in the back seat a 12-pack, 12-ounce Bud Light bottles, which is the same item that he believed he had saw go into the vehicle. The officer asked the operator for if they had a fake ID card. They stated they did not. That the clerk in the store did not ask for any identification. The operator stated it was the first time that they had gone in there. However, it was known to them that that was supposedly the place to go to purchase alcohol if you were underage. The officer ended up citing the operator for minor transporting of alcohol. And then at 9:25 the same night, the officer went back into the store and ended up speaking to the store clerk, who was identified as a Bharat Reddy. He identified himself as the owner's brother, Mr. Manthal Patel's brother. The officer asked if he had asked for identification for the individual. He described what they looked like, what they were wearing, what they had purchased. He said he didn't know. However, once shown a photograph and actually being told how old they were, he acknowledged he had forgot to ask for identification, said he normally does, but in this case had not. This officer, also knowing the requirements for the town, had asked how long he had worked there and if he was tip certified. And the clerk stated he was not tip certified. He had worked there part-time about 7 to 8 times he had worked, but didn't get an exact length of time for him working there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Patel, do you want to respond?
Yeah, so he's my brother and he doesn't work at this store normally. But, I had a situation that my wife was pregnant, so I was training him. So he only worked a few weeks. So I was going to give him tip certificate. But, my wife, she got birth early. So at that day, I was there with him at the store until 7 o'clock. But then my wife called that she has to run to the hospital. So I went to the hospital and I have a certificate. I got the baby on the same day. So I have the certificate too. But it was just the situation, and I don't really have any employee. So I normally work the whole day. And I also got the tip certificate and I already submitted to the town in January. So, but yeah, the situation, it was just like, came in and then I have to leave. I have to leave the store at that point.
Okay. Any questions?
And he's been, and I've been like, he's like same thing exactly, it was 8 to 10 days. I was training him. I was with him for the whole day. I was teaching him, only for that couple of days, that if my wife is giving birth, that he can take care. And then it just early, it happened that I got the baby early. So.
Comments, questions from the board? Tom?
So congratulations on your baby. It is our obligation to make sure that minors can't purchase alcohol in Westford. So although, again, congratulations on your event, that doesn't excuse in any way allowing that to happen in your business. You could have closed the business. There are other choices you could have made. So I don't see any reason to do anything except move to the third violation as laid out in our policies covering this.
Yeah, I didn't think of anything at that point, and I just left the store. That's my fault, I know.
So I believe that for the third violation, it's a 2-week suspension of operation, right?
Correct.
Okay, I was going to say, Mr. Patel, you're looking at closing your store for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Is there any time I would close or?
I guess, one of the things we can talk about is whether, as a board, whether we want the 2 weeks to run consecutively, whether we are willing to, do it a week at one, or spread it out over a month, or how do we want to impose the 2-week suspension of operation? And when do we want it to start? Scott?
Yes, I guess I would also say congratulations, but I'd also say that, I've, babies take some time to arrive. And I know, most of us plan to have someone there to watch with the kids, whatever it takes to make that, event of that day or night, work without disrupting, I guess the safety of the community in your case. So I guess with Tom that other plans should have been made. And that being said, you did have a baby, and
Yeah.
I don't want to come down like a ton of bricks. I would be inclined to think that 2 separate weeks with some spacing apart would be okay with me.
It was just all of a sudden, and I understand, I keep training him early, but it just happened. Yeah. So it was due in April, but she delivered in March. So that's, yeah. So I tried a little early to train him, but yeah.
All right. Anita?
I'll just add my congratulations to you and your wife. It's a very exciting moment. But I guess my concern is that, you were just here a few months ago, right? So to me, it should be very fresh in your mind of training those employees. And I know, I can't imagine the excitement and stuff that you're feeling that moment where you needed to rush. But kind of leading up to that, as Scott was saying, especially with all these violations that just happened, I would hope that, you would spend a little bit more time making sure that your brother or whoever you're employing is really doing their due diligence with checking, their IDs and everything like that.
Yeah,
and the tip certification, right? I just wanted to really emphasize that part. And so I guess I'm with Scott. I don't really care if it's 2 weeks, consecutively, or if you're splitting it up week by week. But I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. I was gonna give him tip certificate too, but it happened early, and I don't really accept any other, I have many Connecticut ID and all that stuff, but I don't accept them. I just send them home. But yeah, I mean, I teach him too every step. But I guess so. I asked him, and he was like, "Oh, I was closing the store," and then he was like doing all other stuff, and then he just forget. That's what he told me.
All right, so I think the issue is whether we want to do it 2 weeks. I see you, John. Whether we want to do it 2 weeks consecutively or split it up a week and a week. I certainly have no objection to splitting them up and giving a little bit of time between each week. But the other thing I have to also say that does concern me is the statement that was made is that this is the place to go if you're underage and you want to buy alcohol. And I do find that to be concerning.
Yeah, so it happened it happened before in October. So I guess so at that time, I had a young employee. So I don't have any more a young employee, but I think he was the one maybe spread the stuff. But then after the fine, I just been really strict. I don't accept anyone, and I guess so that it was heard from the long time, and then like she said, she was first time coming here.
Okay. John?
I had a question. There's the language of what we have here. We say it's a 2-week suspension. It doesn't say a 2-week closing. Is there any way to suspend the liquor license and remove the alcohol and then let the rest of the store operate?
I'll let Mr. Patel answer, but I do believe that the store is basically a store that sells alcohol.
He doesn't do anything else? Okay.
I do like lottery and all other stuff. I do lottery and some groceries, but not that much grocery.
And I think it's pretty hard to monitor, honestly. And it's been our past practice that we do close. We close the operation of the store. So what's the pleasure of the board? Tom?
If we're ready, I'm happy to make a motion that we enforce a 2-week suspension at Westford Market and Liquors pursuant to our policy with the option of choosing 2 separate weeks. And we'd like Mr. Patel to submit his plan to, I guess, Patty within the next 7 days.
Before we have a second to your motion, Jody?
Yeah, I think you really have to decide the 2 weeks at this meeting because that's what you're imposing and that's what we can enforce. So I don't think Patty has the authority to do that. So if you could pick the 2 weeks tonight, then we could be all set. Thank you.
So I would suggest that we do let's start Monday, April 18th and do that as 1 week. And you can come back and open the store for 2 weeks and do the week of May 9th.
So you're talking about closing at 18 and come back at
Close from the 18th to the 24th.
Okay.
You can open from the 25th to May 8th.
25th to...
And then close again from Monday, May 9th through Sunday, May 15th.
Okay, I think that works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Tom, you want to amend your motion just to add those?
Yes, as amended to cover the 2 weeks specified.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay.
All those in favor, Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Patel, we really don't want to see you again.
Yeah, I don't really want to come here too, but
We
It
really
was-
don't want to see you again,
yeah,
okay? And congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now at our joint meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to close the public hearing, which I
Yes.
think is why John is raising his hand. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Anita,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're at our our 7:30 PM item, which is a joint meeting with the Permanent Town Building Committee and the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee to discuss potential sustainability upgrades to the design of the proposed new center building at 51 Main Street and determine next steps. So first off, I want to thank everybody who has been involved in this process, both the Permanent Town Building Committee, the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, the small working group that got together to work on this, and our consultants. I appreciate, as does the board, all of the hard work that you've all been doing on this as we continue to move this project forward. What I propose to do tonight during this discussion is that I'd like to start with Tom to present the recommendations that are coming out of the Permanent Town Building Committee. Tom, be mindful that, and everybody be mindful, we have all of your memorandum or memoranda. We have all of your emails. So, and the board has read all of that. So you don't need to go through them word for word. If you want to highlight, specific recommendations or areas, that's fine, but do be mindful that we've read all of that. And all of them. I'm going to ask Tom, as chair of the Permanent Town Building Committee, to start to present their recommendations. Then I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Mike Berlinski from the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee to present any comments that you may have or that your committee has. And then I will open it up for comments and questions from the board. And then I will then I will turn to any audience questions or comments from there. So with that framework and guideline, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Mahana to start.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Tom Mahana, I'm chair of the Permanent Town Building Committee. And so, yeah, I will not go through my memo, as you've all hopefully had enough chance to read. It just summarizes the discussions that took place during the two working group meetings, along with additional correspondence that we've had with, with Context, our consultant on this project. So I just want to give a brief summary, and then I want to turn it over to Chris for some follow-up additional information that he'd like to provide, and then we can turn it over to Clean Energy Committee. So when we last came in front of this board on February 8th with the original original proposal, that's when we were directed to go back and put together this group and kind of revisit the whole proposal and determine what we felt is best for this project. So some of the key items that came out of this working group meeting was that we removed the geothermal system from the scope of services. I think we collectively determined that is really not practical for this application, for this project. That was a significant cost that has been removed. We also determined that LEED certification will not be pursued for this project. However, we could still, create a LEED certifiable project. So those services can still be provided, but at a minimum, we're still going to be looking at, we'll be including a sustainability consultant that will provide that kind of guidance for us on this project. We're incorporating sustainable initiatives and materials into the project. Solar PV, that will be coordinated with the work that Eric is doing in the town's PV consultant, Amoresco. So depending on the results of their studies, how we will incorporate that. I think the biggest highlight here is what he tried to explain is the work that the Context and their crew will do on the energy modeling and kind of their target installation goals for this project. And I'm gonna let Chris talk a little bit more about that. But kind of in summary, a lot of the goals that the Energy Committee was hoping that they could see in this project, I think we are achieving. Some of the things we highlighted here, or at least we plan on achieving, is going to be including energy efficient heating and cooling system, including all electric heating, cooling, and hot water. Will be the goal will be to meet an EUI approaching 25 for the site. So a lot of the initiatives, I think that they have looked, or we're hoping to see come out of this project. I think we will be able to meet. There's some that we don't think we're going to be able to meet, and that's mostly because you have to keep in mind that we are now, in year 5 of this project. So we've completed a substantial amount of design, and we want to be able to continue to keep moving forward and not have to go back and redo design the work that's already been done. So that was kind of the goal that we're hoping for as a committee, and being able to keep this project moving forward. So so I summarized there what the range and the costs are, depending on which options we want to include. And I'd like to maybe just turn it over now to Chris and Chris explain a little bit more about some of the process and the work of their subs that will be on this project.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, board members, for this opportunity. I think in hindsight, a lot of good has come out of the last 6-8 weeks of revisiting the building. And as you all know, we put this building on pause in 2020 and reignited it last fall. At that time, the building was not as focused on sustainability and approaching net zero with a lower EUI as it is now. So I think as a new building for Westford, there are a lot of benefits that are inherent in the design that would really speak well to the community and to future buildings in town. But to really understand how that's going to be achieved, the proposal in front of you is required to be able to do the engineering, to do the study, and to engage both the sustainability and AKF will be working in unison with SOD and sustainability and our mechanical engineers, GDD, to develop a series of studies to determine the best approach for the for obtaining an energy efficient system envelope and be able to back that up with some substantial information that we'd be able to rely upon as we go forward, and would allow the town to make some further decisions and be more specific about how we want to see the project progress towards construction documents and construction. Right now, what we've been really focusing on is very theoretical because we don't have the engineering background. However, we were able to engage some of our other consultants as sort of as favors to be able to pull together some of this information. So as Tom described, the building is now has a much tighter, higher thermal performing envelope than it did last fall. We've gone from an exterior wall R value of 15 with the insulation to an exterior wall R value of 25. So that's quite a leap from where we were. The wall insulation is actually the most important of the two. The roof insulation, which would most likely be at above the ceiling of the second floor, opposed to being in the roof structure. That would go from an R38 last fall to an R40. We can bump that up higher, possibly depending upon the building structure, which again we will need to revisit as part of this phase. The energy efficiency goal for this job would be an EUI of 25, which at the site, which we feel is attainable and achievable. So that's better than what we were working with before, which was an EUI probably in the 40s. What we will be bringing to the job as far as all the interior finishes and some of the assemblies and construction detailing will be a healthier indoor air quality throughout the entire building, which I think is really important for any sort of assembly space as well as office space. So it would represent a sort of a new approach to interior air quality for the town of Westford for its municipal buildings. And then, as Tom indicated, the notion is to have all electric systems, which will then be beneficial to getting or approaching net zero as part of the design. I understand with Amoresco, they'll be working on the PV design. We do have the option of engaging AKF to do PV design, but we'll hold off on that until we hear more from Amoresco. And we're provided the town with all the documentation on the building that Amoresco needs to be able to do their study and come up with a direction for the 51 Main Street. So I think, I applaud the town in making this effort. As a firm, we are, as I stated many times, we're very much in favor of this. And I think it's been a productive process, a learning process. And I think that learning process will continue if this proposal is accepted and we go forth.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
I think that was it, Andrea.
Sorry, I was muted. Anything else you want to add?
No, so yeah, I think that's Chris summed it up pretty good, and I think that's where we're at the we're at the point now that we're would like be able to have authorization to proceed with this, so that we can re-engage the design process along with this whole process itself. So we're looking for approval tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Before I get to questions, as I said, Mike, as chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, comments that you may have, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
Or that your committee may have.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so Mike Berlinski, chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. I did want to share a couple comments tonight on behalf of our committee. First, we do appreciate where things are with the project and that our committee's interests have been taken into account. And you heard some of the examples of some of the goals that we had expressed for this project are now reflected in the plan for the project to consider the project to be a net zero energy building, which is in line with the net zero climate goal. So we support the current proposal that is before the select board tonight. We do want to emphasize that life cycle costs are important to consider in addition to upfront costs. And we think such a net zero building may not be more expensive than a business as usual building, once all the costs, all the rebates and incentives have been taken into account. And we think it is important, for all of that to be analyzed. We do want to note that it has been challenging for our committee to get engaged on this building project and other building projects, as it always seems to be too early or too late for the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee to be engaged. So we ask that our committee and clean energy and sustainability goals be considered in a town building right from the start. We also ask that the Select Board, Permanent Town Building Committee, and Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee work together towards a set of sustainable municipal building guidelines that can be applied to all building projects. We think that these steps will save time and money in addition to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And our committee is happy to get the ball rolling in this direction. And finally, we look forward to continuing to be involved in this project. We do think that our continued involvement is necessary to ensure that this project is pursued in line with the town's goals. And so with that, I will thank you on behalf of our committee for your consideration.
Great, thank you so much. Let me start with any questions or comments from board members. Tom.
I think Mike had a kind of a specific request, and I don't know if it's to you, Tom, or to you, Chris. I think somewhere it says that part of this exercise will be determine some of the options and the costs, and I think they wanted costs and payback period, something that reflect the sort of lifetime costs, not just the upfront costs. So I think that's maybe a explicit request that be added to the document that we're voting on.
So the life cycle, yeah. So you're referring to the life cycle cost analysis, which Chris, I guess I'll let you respond to that. But I mean, it's something that we would include as part of this process anyway, correct?
Yes, that would be a result of selecting systems for the building, and from that, the engineers would do a life cycle cost analysis and present all that data to the Permanent Town Building Committee for review and selection of a system. And that would be done in association with AKF's energy model, that they would probably do some variations on their model for the different types of systems we're looking at. So all that data would be collected and presented to them. A part of that, Tom, would be a projection of what the monthly utility bills would be for this building, based upon the current electric rates for Westford. We did this 2 years ago as part of the study for the different systems. I think there were 5 systems initially that we looked at for the building, and narrowed down to a couple that were seemed to be the most positive for the project at that time. And the engineers did run a monthly utility bill analysis to determine what the annual bill would be. For at that point, we're looking at a gas system and electric system. So
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all your cooperation with this.
Other questions or comments from the board? John?
Yeah, well, I think the recommendations are good. I mean, they hit about every button on it. And I think they are one of my concerns. And they did make provisions that we could still continue with the emergency generator system, before changing that. So I think, with Mike agreeing to this, I think it's a good list of things to do. I agree with it.
Okay. I would just, a couple of things I would just like to say. First of all, again, I really want to thank all of you for all of your hard work. I know it's been a process. I know it hasn't always been smooth, but I really do appreciate it. In many ways, this has been a learning curve for all of us, given where we started 5 years ago and where we are now. I sort of see this building now as a whole learning process for all of us that we can now carry forward to future, municipal buildings that we may be considering and coming online. I think, we've all learned some lessons that we can apply in the future. I certainly, Mike and members of your other committee, I agree, you came late to the party, so to speak, in terms of, the planning process. Certainly in the future, I do agree with you that, with any new building, that the Clean Energy Committee needs to be involved in that process as soon as possible from the get-go to start the planning. So, I think that's one of the lessons that we've learned. And also, times change, things have changed. So moving forward, I think that we'll go there. I also think that, Mike, the idea you expressed of coming up with guidelines, I think sounds like, an excellent idea, could serve the community well. I'm not exactly sure, how that occurs, but I think the fact that your committee is volunteering to take the lead on that, great. Don't make a suggestion unless you're going to volunteer. So thank you very much. I mean, I think that, obviously, I think, the building department, the planning board, those folks would need to be looked at and brought into the process. But again, I'm not sure how that works out, how it intermeshes with the building code. Is it a building code? And those kinds of questions. I just don't know the answer to those. But I think that the concept, at least to me, sounds like is one that could serve the community, and not just municipal buildings, but municipal buildings, commercial buildings, even residential buildings. I think if everybody had an idea of what guidelines we're operating on, everybody would be served well. So I think this all sounds like really helping to move the town to meet the goal that we set for the town manager at the beginning of this fiscal year, and also helps us move to net zero, both as a community and as the Commonwealth going forward. So I continue to be excited by all the work that all of you are doing. Scott.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of observe that we had made it a priority for the town building committee to work with the Senate building committee months ago, and it's easy to say, okay, two committees going to work together, but the how. This is what, to me, this proposal is very helpful because it gave us a specific example of a goal to work on together. So I think give us experience, it'll be smoother going forward than it was this time in terms of knowing what each other wants to see from their fellow committee members.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment and have one question. I think the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee has done a remarkable job getting up to speed on this thing and having the impact that they've had. My question is, adopting all these changes, where does that put us on the time scale of getting this project underway? And how does that fit into our annual town meeting? What are we going to have available for annual town meeting from the point where we are right now? I guess that permanent town building committee might be able to answer that too, but
yeah, that's quite a question, John. Thanks. So I think I put in our summary memo that Chris and his team will need about 6 to 8 weeks to complete this process. And then the goal was then to send this to, they have a third-party estimator on their team too that will do a complete revision of the estimate. So, and that takes a good 2 to 3 weeks for them to go through that. So I know we're 2 months out from annual town meeting.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar right now too, Tom.
And we really need something probably a good 3 to 4 weeks ahead of the meeting. If we're looking at, I can only assume that the number will be more than the number you have in hand, which is I think what we presented last fall, if I remember correctly. So.
I think what I'm hearing is that we're not going to make spring town meeting with this, and that we're probably, when you figure in everything that needs to be done and review, and permanent town building is going to want to review it, the Clean Energy Sustainability Committee is going to want to review it, you guys are going to want to get together and talk about it and hopefully come up with a set of the reality is, I think we're looking at fall town meeting.
I think that would be preferred, so that we're not trying to scramble to get to town meeting and not really being as prepared as we may not even have all the information that we need.
Right.
Accurate, cost information, and that's really critical. And as everybody knows right now, construction market and inflation is kind of going crazy, and it's hard to predict cost increases in schedule with material delays we're having. So, the more time that we could have ahead of town meeting to be able to prepare for this, I think would be in everybody's best interest.
Yeah, Scott.
Right, I don't think it's all bad to move towards special town meeting, because what we're going to have to do, the financing assumes a debt exclusion, which means an election, and with town meeting in June, there's no election, coming immediately thereafter, we'd have to pay for an election. This way, if we do it at fall town meeting or a special town meeting, you've got the November election already on the calendar. So maybe we just want to sort of work out the wording for not tonight, but as you get closer, work out the wording to add this to the November ballot, so it's ready to go. Because you have to have, I think, some window between the ballot and the election.
Okay. John, is your hand still up because you have something to say, or you forgot to take it down?
Well, I was going to make a comment about, I'm concerned. One of my other concerns is going to be the budget. After looking at what happened to that Lowell High School, went up $30 million on a $200 million budget. That concerns me. What concerns me is the cost, and also trying to get a sense of urgency. I know we've got some critical functions that go into this addition, and it'd be kind of interesting to hear from town manager what impact this delay has on the town operations, if any, or any concerns that she might have.
It's all yours, Jody.
So, I mean, this project has been going on now for 5 years, so I don't really think delaying it for a couple, 6 more months is going to change anything. So, yeah, I think we need to be prepared, and if it takes a few more months, then that's what we need to do, so.
Okay. So are there any more questions or comments from the board? Right, I don't see any, oops, sorry, Anita. Oh, Anita, you changed your hand.
I found it. I found how to change the color of my hand so it doesn't blend in. I guess something that I've just kind of been thinking about that Mike Berlinski mentioned through this conversation was, having some sort of sit down with select board, clean energy, and permanent town building. And I think just trying to figure out what the vision is for the building and maybe other buildings going forward. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't kind of get lost. And I know that we have different ideas or approaches to how this building should be constructed or designed. And so I just want to make sure that if there's any more sort of those visionary discussions that need to take place, that we keep that in the process.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I'm not seeing any comments or questions from the audience. Oops, wait, one. Emily, okay. Emily Teller does have her hand up. Can you promote Emily, Eric, please? There you are, Emily. Although we can see you, we can't hear you yet.
Been promoted to a panelist. I'm excited.
There you go, and we can hear you.
There we go. Hi, thank you for allowing the public to comment on this. I seem to remember a couple months ago I came to a meeting about this and joined the select board to direct the permanent building committee to make this a carbon-free building, because it seems to me that the permanent town building committee is appointed by the select board, so you all have jurisdiction over that. And I still would like to do that. I'm a little sad, Andrea, that you said the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee has come late to the party, because, I think it's been 2 years that Westford Climate Action got the resolution to town meeting to change the way we think in Westford going forward to consider the town's future. And I know that COVID interrupted a lot of stuff. I just feel like the select board may have given up on that as an opportunity for this.
Absolutely building. Not. And when I said late to the party, Emily, and I don't mean to interrupt you, what I meant was
interrupt.
This building started 5 years ago. They didn't get involved until approximately, 18 months ago, because, basically that's, when they got formed and what happened, and when sort of all of our mindset began to focus on sustainability and clean energy. So that's what I meant when I said late to the party. They weren't involved from the very beginning of the planning of this building. In the future, moving ahead, it's my hope and expectation that the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee will be involved in the planning of buildings from the get-go.
I totally agree. And I hope that the select board will send out the message to all town departments that the clean energy concepts and perhaps a representative from the committee should be on the planning for everything that happens in town, you know, department wide. However, it sounds like you're giving up on this building being carbon free. And if it's just still going out for estimates, I would think that there could be changes and heat pumps could be requested and the gas burner can be eliminated. So I'm frustrated about that.
Well, wait,
Chris,
you need to wait to be recognized, okay? That's how it works here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Emily.
And so the other thing is, I just want to say that I'm very pleased that Anita brought that up in terms of getting the three groups together, envisioning for this building, because I think that's what you meant, correct, Anita? It wasn't just going forward after this building, but I just don't want, this is such an important building for so many reasons. And as Mike said at the beginning, over time, those changes to this building will be more efficient, cheaper, better environmentally. And so I just, please don't give up and please work to make this carbon neutral. Thank you. I think I'm done, unless Chris wants to ask me something. Karpinski.
Nope, I get to tell, to say who gets to ask you anything, Emily. Tom and John, and then, you know, Chris Karpinski, gosh, we have three Chris's here. Chris Karpinski, you were waving your hands. If you do want to say something, obviously, yes, you may, but let me get to Tom and John first, and then you.
Just real briefly, and Emily, I invite you to learn more about what's being discussed. This effort does take the motion to basically make the building very efficient and to look for electrified ways of doing heating and cooling, so not burning fossil fuels to heat the building. So that's what we're going to get out of this, is a great approach that will make this a very efficient building that is net zero ready. But because we've contracted with Amoresco for the power generation, the PV part, we need that piece of the puzzle to join in to make this building truly net zero. So the intention is to make it net zero. We're not giving up, but it's two different efforts that have been contracted for really good reasons separately that will ultimately come together to make that true. So this committee is absolutely doing everything that we could hope for to make this a net zero ready project. So don't you think anyone's giving up on that?
John?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris Karpinski?
Exactly as Tom said, I just think there was a disconnect there. Making this 51 building as tight as possible and electrifying it makes it ready for the future. And especially as the Clean Energy Committee thinks less about buildings and more about adding infrastructure to the town, this building will be ready to receive any energy that a larger scale infrastructure solar will generate in the town.
Thank you. All right. I believe that let me just make sure. Nope, I do not see any more questions, and I don't see anybody else who has their hand raised. So I believe that the Permanent Town Building Committee is looking for authorization from us tonight to move forward. So Tom and/or Scott, are one of you prepared to make that motion?
I wonder if Scott's about to make the same point. So there's two options in the proposal. There's sort of an A and a B.
That's right. Thank you.
And so what I would suggest is that we take the option that is the $92,000 option. It's the option that includes not a LEED. It doesn't pursue being LEED certifiable. LEED is interesting and important, but not central to this project, in my opinion. And it also leaves all of the PV work to be done by Amoresco. So I guess I put forward for discussion, or I'm happy to make a motion that we authorize the $92,000 option as the go forward plan.
Okay, let's start with that. Is there a second to that motion? And then we can talk about it? Okay, John seconded it. Scott?
No, the danger of working with Tom so much is that he said what I was going to say. So I was going to make a motion for 92,000, so I'll just call it my second.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I don't see any. So all in favor of the motion. Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I think you have direction. Thank you all again very much. Tom Mahana's got, whoops, before I
Yeah,
let you go.
I just had one question, or I guess it's more just a clarification that this board does understand that we don't have this money available in our existing appropriation, that there will be another source of funds to do this. Correct?
Yeah, if we don't have it, then yeah, well, I guess we're gonna have to find it. Jody?
Okay. All right, I just
wait a
wanted,
minute.
before we all logged off on this,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we were all on the same page.
Jody? You're muted.
So this, this project is supposed to be a debt exclusion. We actually don't have these separate funds set aside. So what I would say is I will work with Dan tomorrow on options. One would be ARPA, but how soon do you want to get going on this, Tom?
A couple of years from now.
No, seriously, because if you need to get going now, it really is going to be a request for ARPA because we won't even get to town meeting till June 12th. So
When would the ARPA funds be, when would the earliest that the ARPA funds would be available?
well, if the board approved it tonight, that would be tomorrow.
Which we won't be doing because it isn't on our agenda
Yeah.
tonight, Jody, so.
I mean, if you have to wait, is your meeting, another meeting in 2 weeks?
4/26 is their next meeting.
Chris, that would be fine, right? We could line everybody up and be ready to go, assuming we get, the approval of the funding on the 26th.
Are you out of funds?
I'm not out of funds, no. I mean, we could, if I could, we could get it started, I guess, if you're just gonna, I don't know how it works, if you're gonna be supplementing the appropriation or if it's gotta be completely separate for this contract under the ARPA, use of the ARPA funds.
Why don't we talk
I
tomorrow?
was gonna say, can you guys talk about that
fine.
tomorrow?
That's fine,
Call me.
I will,
all right.
thank you.
All right, we had a motion and, okay, we voted, right? I'm sorry, I got confused. We voted, all right. So subject to Jody and Tom and our finance committee getting together to figure out how we're gonna come up with the $92,000. Once again, thank you all very much. Really appreciate all your hard work. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, we are at our 8:15 PM item, which is a request from the Pedestrian Safety Committee to support an article for town meeting to consider General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C, to establish a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on sections of West Prescott Street, Pleasant Street, Patton Road, and Main Street. And I believe Chris Barrett is going to be joining us.
All right, I'm here. Sorry, I took a couple tries. So
it's okay.
Yes, Chris Barrett, Chair of the Pedestrian Safety Committee. I'm here this evening to discuss options to reduce speed in the town of Westford. This is a continuation of the discussion that we brought before you at the end of last year. And specifically, we're talking about Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C. After our discussion at the end of last year, we went back and reconvened with the Westford Police Department and took another look at what other approaches we could tackle and bring before you. So after a lot of discussion, we looked at doing a scaled down approach in which we're evaluating just a set number of roads that we would plan for the implementation of 17C on. Those roads are Main Street, West Prescott, Pleasant, and Patton Road. In the case of West Prescott and West Prescott and Pleasant Street, we're asking to put 17C in place at the existing locations that we have speed advisories. So for those of you who are not aware, as you're driving down Pleasant Street or down West Prescott, there are yellow 25-mile-an-hour advisory signs. Our proposal is, if we implement 17C here, to swap those signs out with appropriate signage indicating that 17C is in place. Likewise, at Main Street, we have advisory signs up. We would swap those out. And we would also extend the limit to further down Main Street towards where Tadmuck is. This is because during our public meeting on March 30th, we had lots of engagement from residents who were on Main Street who were concerned about the speeds in that area. The fact that there was a lot of pedestrian activity between the neighborhoods and on Main Street to the shops there at the bottom of the hill. So instead of ending where the advisory is today, which is roughly around where Rodenbush is, we would push it down Main Street to the bottom of the hill. And then the other location is Patton Road. We selected that location because of a high volume of traffic during certain parts of the day, combined with pedestrian and bicycles. A large number of inexperienced drivers also making the trek to the school. And it made sense that that would be a good location to see if we could lower speeds. One of the challenges with this law is that we were only able to look at roads that were considered thickly settled for their entirety. So unfortunately, we can't select many more roads in Westford because of that limitation and because of the challenges to try to do enforcement on too many roads. So a smaller segment of roads, I think, will allow us to be more successful with the implementation and enforcement. And we have the support of the Westford Police Department with this approach. So this evening, what we're looking for you to support is bringing forward an article to the annual town meeting asking the voters to vote hopefully in favor of this initiative.
Great, thank you, Chris. Certainly a scaled back proposal than when you were last here. And I think probably, certainly, as you said, better capable of both enforcement as well as just more appropriate for the town in general. Any comments or questions from the board? John?
Yeah, Chris, I know you and I have talked about this, but would you clarify why Boston Road was not included in this?
Yes, Boston Road is not considered thickly settled for the entirety of the roadway. So that was one concern. If you think about down at the bottom of the hill where there's the Drew Farm property, there's no real it's not considered thickly settled there. So that would be one exclusion from the perspective of Mass Highway regulations.
Just to comment, when I was looking at it, it said that thickly settled was, houses no more than 200 feet apart for a distance of a quarter of a mile. I didn't see that about the road.
Yes, we did actually follow up with Mass Highway several times on that particular aspect of this because it is very confusing, and they were very clear with us that it had to be the entirety of the road. The reason being is that there are signs that indicate if a road's thickly settled, but there's no signs out there that indicate where a road is not thickly settled. So the fear is if you have a long road and only certain parts of it are thickly settled, you can't implement this because people don't know where the thickly settled ends, apparently. So one of those idiosyncrasies of this particular set of rules and regulations, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? I don't see any. And John?
I just want to comment about what's in the agenda. We talk about establishing support an article town meeting and consider that line, and it says established at 25 miles per hour. I think the consideration is I think it's in the warrant, is that the motion would be to adopt that And then it's up to the select board then to pick the roads and what we do with them. I don't think the motion is that, I guess maybe the motion is that we consider these streets, but I think for the town meeting, it's to, yes, we will, adopt MGL 9017C.
Well, we can get clarification on that.
Yeah, I think that's my understanding anyway.
Scott?
I just wanted to add to Chris's comments that, at the March 30th meeting, we had great community input, far more than I expected. And I didn't take a tally, maybe Chris did, of what the pros and cons were, but I say for about 80% were in favor of this, and especially on the lower section of Boston Road, every family was, my kids want to go to get pizza, to get candy, whatever it is, and they're very concerned about the speeds there. So
That's Main Street, Scott.
sorry, thank you. Sorry. Main Street. So I guess the point is that they had a robust discussion. Sometimes we have hearings and no one shows up. This is one where great turnout, great comments. We actually tweaked it because of those comments to extend it, as Chris mentioned. So thanks to those who showed up. But the fact that those who live there want it to be slower doesn't mean that those who don't live there don't want to be slower. So it belongs on town meeting warrant to have the decision being made, but certainly those who are impacted are in favor for the most part.
Great, thank you. As someone who lives in that area, I know that the sidewalk that we put in there, in that area a couple of years ago is well traversed by kids, and not only just kids, but people walking their dogs, people walking their with small children and strollers. So it is a very well traversed part of town now, and that little shopping center is a draw, no question about it. With that, I think that the request is that we put an article on the town warrant. John, I think we can, at least for now, put aside the exact wording. We can figure that out between now and town meeting. I think just whether or not we support putting an article on the town meeting warrant is really all we need to decide tonight. Jody?
Yes, that is how we have it in the warrant. It's just, I listed the streets that were under discussion so that the residents knew that that's what we were talking about, but the article is generic, so.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Great. All right, so is there a motion to support putting this article on annual town meeting warrant?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Chris, thank you and your committee for all their hard work.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your time this evening.
All right.
Before Chris goes, Andrea, there's
Anita,
a question.
yeah.
Oh,
Anita?
Tom was probably going to bring it up too. There was a question that came in the chat before Chris goes. Just if we can ask Chris to speak to whether Plain Road was considered.
It's not on my chat. It's on, okay.
yes, so Plain Road was one of the streets that was talked about in the many, many months that we had discussions. In the end, it did not fit the qualifications that we were sort of looking for in terms of being something that the police department could enforce. There was a lot of concern with, if we expand the scope too much, will we really be able to enforce the limit here? And that's why we were focusing on primarily the areas where we already had speed advisories in place, and then again, Patton Road. So it didn't make that next cut, if you will, because of those reasons.
Okay, and I know we've all gotten some emails over the last couple of days with respect to Hartford Road. So I know that there are other roads out here in the community that I suspect that your committee may be considering in the future.
Yes, I think that I think the committee's approach would be that if we do decide as a community to implement this as on a street by street approach, that we evaluate how it goes in the next couple of years, and based off of input from the Westford Police Department, maybe we expand to other roads where it's applicable. Again, we're going to be bound by the requirement that the road be thickly settled throughout its entirety, unless the legislation changes. But that is certainly something that I think the committee would be very interested in exploring with Westford Police Department.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And again, thank you to you and your committee.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Okay, good night. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, we are now at our 8:35 p.m. item, which is to consider recommendations from the Access to Town Meeting Committee. And I believe this is Diane Wood.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to report out. I'll start by saying, as you recall, this committee came to Select Board in February and presented an update on the progress of the committee. And tonight we're presenting the recommendations that we came up with. So Eric, if you could move down a little. Okay, before we do that, Eric, there's another presentation that has the executive summary.
Eric, could you make sure that Anita is a panelist?
Yeah, I just said the same thing. What happened to, did we lose Anita?
Okay, do we have that executive summary to share, Eric?
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got bumped.
Anita, can you share the executive summary?
Wait. I think Eric's doing it, okay? Anita, I think, just got bumped off, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right, we're all here.
Okay, thank you.
Diane, let me preface this again by saying, we've got your materials, we've read them, so you don't need to go through it word by word.
Right.
Summary will be good.
Right, understood. For the past hour and a half, I clearly understood what the meeting has been like.
Okay.
So executive summary, I'm not going to read it. The highlights here are that we had 800 responses from the survey that was distributed to Westford, community. And others may say, well, 800 responses in a community of 17,000 voters may not be a lot, but these were 800 voters of people who rarely attend town meeting or never attend town meeting. And this was an opportunity for their voices to be heard. So I did want to point that out. And the other comment I would make is implementing these recommendations cumulatively and consistently over time will help to demonstrate the town's commitment to civic engagement and to ensure that the voices of the voters are being heard. So this was one way to demonstrate to the community they're being listened to and their comments are being heard. Finally, change is often hard to accept, but HAM should strive to be relevant to the changing needs of the whole community. So I know there may be changes embedded to tradition, to the process, to procedures, that people really need to revisit. Maybe we can look at being creative in this approach. And Eric, we can move on to the recommendations. Okay, I'm not going to read each one of these. In effect, they're fairly self-explanatory. I could consider this a consent agenda. So if I look at the first section, which speaks to making the meeting shorter, more efficient, and predictable, are there any items in there that the select board jump out to the select board that they may have questions about? So this all addresses trying to make it more predictable for those who aren't at the meeting as to when they should come, if they have some passion for a specific article or a specific citizens petition, that they could come to the meeting and know when that would be voted on. So I'll pause there for a minute.
Okay, my problem right now is that I am frozen and I can't see anybody. So if somebody has a question, please just chime in while I'm gonna sign out and come back. Ah, there you all are. Okay. Anyway, did anybody have a question or comment about that? John?
Yeah, I was looking at this and I looked down at number 9 where you say move items with high known public interest to the beginning of the meeting. So I can just picture this, having that one item and then everybody vacating the building at the annual town meeting. I'm not so sure I agree with trying to skew it that way. I think we need to go through some budget items and things like that beforehand to get a picture of what's going on. Then if we got some special interest item, that could be kind of in the middle. But I'm not so sure I like the idea of maneuvering that around.
So these recommendations reflect the responses that we got from the voters. So I understand what you're saying, John. A lot of people in town do want to be able to know what's important and to be able to know when they could arrange their day because they have children activities and other of life's needs. So they want some semblance of if it's really important to me that I want to vote on the drive-through article, when might that be? And if that was up front, that they would know that. If it started off the meeting that way, they could plan time accordingly and make that extra effort to be there.
Or vice versa, if even just knowing when it's scheduled, I think is what you're saying, Diane. It doesn't have to be in the beginning. It could be,
true,
whatever.
True.
Just as long as I think what I'm hearing is that people just want to have a better understanding of timing of particular articles at town meeting.
True, and we all acknowledge that the dynamics of town meeting are volatile and things change. But there has to be some expectation. There can be some expectations set, so that the lives of voters in town, could be a little more predictable.
Mm-hmm. Scott,
I guess doesn't M help solve H? I mean, we organize our warrant based upon tasks, right? I mean, so it's a logical step of budget and planning and grants and so forth. I mean, there's a flow to it that works, and I think people kind of expect. And nothing prevents anybody at town meeting to say, "Can I take something out of order?" And if majority agrees, then it's out of order. So rather than trying to group things based upon perceived interest, that could then be reordered anyway. It seems to me the logical choice is to create a better way to communicate to the voters when an item of interest will be coming up.
So I agree that yes, they have the ability to take things out of order, but you're assuming that all voters know the process, know the procedures, and would feel comfortable doing so.
okay. I suppose that goes to education, but that's a separate conversation.
Sure.
Anita?
Something that I was thinking about while everyone was talking was just that how I feel like a lot of this kind of falls under Angela Harkness's purview as a town moderator. And so I guess once we get to this part of the discussion later, just trying to understand like what it is that the select board needs to be deciding versus what really falls under Angela's scope. I know we're not done going through that list, but I think as we're kind of reading through it, it might be helpful to kind of understand, where is our scope really in this?
Okay, I'm going to take Jody's comment, and then what I'm going to say is, why don't we let Diane finish going through the recommendations in her presentation, and then when we have comments or questions, let's ask them afterwards. But Diane, let's get through your entire presentation, okay? But wait, before you continue, Jody, I just wanted to let Jody say something.
Yeah, all I was going to say is actually the warrant is the select board's warrant, and running the meeting is the moderator's responsibility. But it takes a lot of planning and thought of how to put this warrant together because certain things are impacted by other things and so on. And we've talked from time to time about putting an article up front that was important, but all the years I've been going to town meeting, sometimes articles that you don't know are going to be important to people are. So I just think it's going to be real tricky to decide to put certain articles in certain order. And to me, there's some predictability in the way we've been formulating the warrant for all the years that I've been here. That's my personal opinion, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Diane, why don't you finish your presentation and then
Okay.
we'll go back to questions, okay?
Eric, let's move down to the next section, which speaks to mitigating common barriers. And this is a group of recommendations that would just make life easier. Again, I think they're fairly self-explanatory. One of the ones we heard over and over again is approving potentially Wi-Fi and cell communication. That was specifically, during being in the Abbott, gym, so that they could contact, be in touch with their families, be in touch with their kids if they need be. The family, create and publicize a family-friendly seating area. That was a suggestion recommendation based out of the town of North Andover that has used this and implemented a seating area for during COVID specifically, it started in the back of the field where families would spread out a blanket and come, with their children and listen to town meeting and vote, so that it wasn't necessary for them to get a sitter, to organize some other activities for them. And it also made it a very inclusive event too. It was not disruptive, as some people may suspect or think. At least that's the input we got from North Andover. And the number 16, encourage all town departments and local organizations to avoid scheduling activities on town meeting dates. So if we're not in competition, if town meeting is not in competition with other activities, it's not going to, be the end all for solving all the problems, but it would help. And all of these individually contribute to, an effort to try to increase attendance at town meeting and listen to what the voters are saying. And then the next section. Communication. So communication and education are two of the largest areas that need a lot of work on. And in general, it's the consistency of the communication. It's the depth and breadth of the communication. It's the issue is not having to recreate the wheel every time we want to publicize or make things known. We should be able to leverage whatever information and documents or recordings we're pulling together and use that and distribute it via different avenues. So PSAs, our website, making that consistent, Facebook pages. The messages are confusing, and our website, where to go for a voter that is not commonly on our website is not comfortable. And then the last two spoke about the Welcome to Westford PDF that is distributed. And I believe it's a town hall also that needs to be updated. I think it's been several years. And that if we had a one pager about, open town meeting to include in resident mailings. So any opportunity, any and all opportunities to get the word out and get the word out as early as we can, so that the community can plan, can set expectations. And this section, although very similar, focuses on education. Right, what can we do? Two unique things here were utilize town meeting mentor volunteers as a resource during the meeting. so that if people are uncomfortable about asking questions or, they do not want to participate, there would be volunteers, there would be people there who could answer their questions and or encourage them or explain something to them so that they could be more educated and feel more comfortable having a voice. Pre-recorded presentations are there. Assign a clear point of contact for each warrant article for residents to send questions ahead of town meeting. I'm not sure, Jody, if this is done today. I'm not clear on that. However, the point here is if people have questions ahead of town meeting, is there someone to ask who can immediately give an answer to, or at least explain that warrant article and answer their question? So they're better prepared. If they're better prepared, they come to a town meeting with those questions answered, and therefore they're not standing at the mic, asking question upon question, therefore making the meeting maybe a little more efficient. And then you can read the rest of those and you can move down, Eric. These are a little longer term. The recommendations made above are all recommendations that can indeed be implemented today. These recommendations need a little more planning and a little more thought through. We discussed at one point having formal childcare that needs to be looked into. And the wording there is to have not volunteers or the Girl Scouts to have a professional licensed provider provide these services so that parents feel comfortable and that we're not dependent on volunteers, because we've tried that in the past and it maybe worked for the first year or the second year, and then volunteers fell off and we were not consistent in the delivery of that offering. So it needs to be consistent, it needs to be professional. And the other areas speak about having a adult education class. So a lot of people in town are not familiar of the whole process for town meeting. And we talk about encouraging students to get involved, but it's adults too that may need some education regarding how town meeting works. And that wraps it up. Behind the scenes, on an ongoing basis, there's a remote participation work group that will continue to look into longer term approaches to remote participation, which may include a number of things, but are a lot more complicated, whether it be at the state level, whether it be charter changes, or even if they're legal or not. So that work is still going on.
Great. Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you to you and all of your committee members for putting this together and presenting this.
Yeah, I do want to give, I'll say I do want to give a shout out to all the community members, and in particular, Christina Green and to Valerie Young, who did the heavy lifting for the two surveys, the two questions that we did. So great group of people, a lot of passion. So thank you to all of them.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board members? Tom?
Diane and the whole committee that worked on this, just a lot of appreciation for all this work. There are a lot of recommendations here. That my reaction is, okay, where do we go? How does this go from this amazing collection of ideas into action? So I don't know, like, who owns that and whether we can take off a small bite first, because this is just such a big bite altogether. I don't know, Diane or I guess Diane, do you have any sense of how this moves forward and how we keep it manageable?
So our charter was to research and come up with a list of recommendations.
And then you've done that, right? Is that what you're saying?
We fulfilled our charter, Tom, and we all knew this was going to be the elephant in the room, quite candidly, and it is, and it needs to be addressed. We chatted to go off and get the input from the voters. This is what they are saying. So if it's a priority for the town to encourage attendance, then we'll make it work. The town will make it work some way. So a very diplomatic answer, but I'll leave it at that. Between select board, town management, and our moderator own this. So what pieces and how we break that up, town meeting versus communication And yes, there are a lot of recommendations there, but a lot of the communications are not recreating the wheel. I know it looks, and I'll acknowledge, it looks overwhelming to everybody when you look at it, but it really isn't. And for lack of having a communications director at the town level, we need to solve the communications challenge, not just for town meeting, but I think for the whole town in general, because we're often struggling with how to get the word out.
Okay. Our town moderator has her hand up and would like to comment. So Eric, can you promote Angela?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Angela.
So I've gone to all the meetings of this really fantastic committee, and these recommendations are all backed up by their research. And it really does depend, as Diane said, on how important it is for us to get people to attend town meeting and vote on our basic form, in our basic form of government. A lot of these things, as Anita pointed out, are really within my jurisdiction and as moderator, and I'm just going to start doing many of them until somebody tells me to stop. A lot of them are easy, and a lot of them I can talk to other moderators about how they're done in other communities, like establish a family-friendly area. You know, I have the electronic vote tabulators before you tonight, later on in the meeting, and introducing that at town meeting. But a lot of these, I think, really are going to come to the select board or the town manager. Things like I think we found that educating people is a really, really important thing, because that's what gets them interested in attending town meeting, when they are presented with the information that allows them to understand what it means to go to town meeting, what we're doing at town meeting, how much your vote counts at town meeting. So things like providing a point person for each article, that's probably something that is going to fall more maybe in Jody's lap or maybe Patty. You know, it's going to have to be somebody who's dealing with all the articles as they go on the warrant. Another thing that I think would be important for the selectmen to think about doing is discouraging any other entity in town, not just the sports organizations, but Road and Bush, the senior center, even private organizations, just discouraging them from having anything else going on, especially on the Saturday of town meeting, so that people aren't presented with having to decide whether they're going to do one thing or go to town meeting. That's really something that can be done in I think in a nice way. It's never going to be a mandatory thing, but I think the town could help a lot in getting behind that. So it probably is going to make sense. And I think, as you can see, they've got these listed as high, medium, and low priority, but it's probably going to make sense to look at each item and figure out whose basket it falls into for implementation, so that we can move to the next step. But I'm behind all of the goals they've expressed here, either for immediate implementation or for further discussion, so that we can figure out what the best way to do them might be.
Great, thank you. So obviously, we're not going to be able to address these goals and decide what we're going to do tonight. But, you know, yes, Diane, you have fulfilled your charter. You did do what we asked you, and you did it very well and in a very timely manner. I think I would suggest that perhaps offline, the board or Jody and I have a discussion about how we proceed next, and how we go about starting to look at the goals and the recommendations you're making, and implementation of them, and then come back and present that to the board, as well as, you know, Diane, your committee, because even though you have fulfilled your charter, I suspect that you probably have, or people on your committee have some ideas and would like some input now into how to actually implement your recommendations. So I would say to be continued, although I'm not exactly sure at what meeting, but we'll get back to you about that. But thank you for all your hard work. This is really terrific, and we really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for the presentation, the opportunity to present.
Right. Everybody have a good evening. Okay. We're now at our 8:50 p.m. item, which is a continuation of the ARPA funding request to determine allocations. So first of all, I just want to let the audience know, as well as my fellow board members, when I first scheduled this item for discussion for 20 minutes, at that time, I think we only had about 4 or 5 requests for new funding for ARPA. Since then, an additional, 10 or 12 requests have come in. And clearly we cannot discuss all of those tonight. Otherwise we'd all be here till midnight or beyond. And I don't think that's anything any of us wanted to do. So what I asked Dan and Jody to do was first update us where we are with a real quick review, then to go through the new requests. But I asked Jody to prioritize those that have a time issue and that are, that we need to look at, right now because of timeliness issues. For example, the town moderator's request for funding for electronic tabulators. I know that one of the school's requests, a Bridge to Success, is timely. And so anything that really needs to be timely, I've asked her to pull out, and we can focus on those. And then for the rest of the requests, we will schedule, as we have done in the past, time to go through those requests and to consider them, and to have the folks in who are making those requests so that we can discuss them with them. So that's my plan and how to proceed tonight, so that we can continue to move forward with the most timely, time-sensitive request from ARPA. So. With that, Jody or Dan, I don't know which one of you is doing this, but can you just sort of quickly run through where we are, what our balance is, and what we expect coming in June?
Absolutely, I can handle that. I'm going to share my screen here so you can see the figures. So far, the select board has authorized this $2,353,000 and for 30 different projects. We currently have $1,355,000 left in funding. This June or possibly sometime this summer, we will get the second half of the ARPA funds totaling $3,708,000. So overall, what we have left for funding is $5,064,000. I do want to add that Jody and I had added a little spreadsheet to the bottom of the financial summary to try to capture some of the projects that may impact future budgets. Here, FY23 is showing $506,000 in potential new operating costs. And if we want to keep these projects in there, we need to figure out a way to fit those within the budget in some future year.
Let me just mention that the future years 24, 25, and 26, if we wanted these things to continue, those figures would move to the right and the bottom subtotal would go up too. So we just want to try to capture things that, we think people may want to continue in the future.
Okay. Then with that, you want to run through, Jody, the new requests that we got?
Right. So what I'm going to do is start with the time sensitive. So there's 4 or 5, can't remember right now, but anyway, there's just a few. So the first one is not new, but it is the internet access program to the Tadmouth Senior Housing and the other elderly housing facilities that are in the town that Jennifer and Mike Wells were working on. So they were successful in figuring out how to pay for the ongoing maintenance costs of that between the Friends of the Cameron Senior Center and a grant that the COA receives. So they are looking for $65,000 to move forward on that project. And we think it is timely because there's no internet connectivity that they're looking for in those buildings. So that's the first priority. The second would be number 4, which is the electronic vote tabulators. And the moderator has asked for us to purchase these, which Dan and I agree with, at $12,865. So we're looking for that. It'll take some time to get them in and get them ready for town meetings. So we think that is time sensitive. If you skip down to number 9, this is called a CMMS system, a facilities ticketing system. This was something that facilities and DPW brought to Capital. We think it's a really important work order system, and Capital did too, but they didn't feel it was Capital because some of this is maintaining and the program. So Paul has gotten quotes. We got a grant for $10,000 that expires May 1st, I believe, and his quote will also go up after May 1st. So this is time sensitive, and it is something that we feel is very vital for the efficient operation of facilities and DPW. The next one would be number 19, which is Bridge to Success Summer Intervention Program. This was a school request, and this is a 5-week supplemental academic support program. They are asking for $26,300, and there is a time sensitivity to get that program up and running. And I think that is it on the new time-sensitive requests. So if you want to address that, then I'll go through the other new requests just so you know what they are, or I can keep going.
I guess why don't you just keep going and go through all the rest in case there's any other requests that one of the board members might consider to be time sensitive, just so we can have it all out in front of us, okay?
Okay, so the next, I'd start at number 10, which is just the ticketing system. Paul is asking that for fiscal year 24 and 25. The next one on number 12 is the assessors are respectfully asking for an electric vehicle for their department. We have already received a grant for $7,500, so he's looking for $22,501. Number 13, the police are looking for an all electric vehicle too. This would be for their traffic officers and traffic unit, I guess it's called. There is a grant available, and so they are seeking $57,895 for a fully electric police vehicle. If you skip down, I mentioned 19, which is time sensitive. 20 is the schools have been paying their substitute teachers at a rate of $100 versus $80, and they're looking to see whether you would supplement that so they could reimburse their budget by $67,070. Number 21 is to have a fully certify an additional 10 staff to support existing teams for safety care training in their schools. They feel that student behavior may cause a concern and a need for this, and they're looking for $10,880. The next one is for restorative practices training and coaching. They feel there is a need for this in the schools, and they're looking for $75,000 to allow them to hire an outside training coaching organization to help them with that. Number 23 is a district-wide communications tool. I think it's pronounced Aptigee, could be wrong about that, but it's a comprehensive upgrade of the district's communication tools with a mobile app and website design. They're looking for $35,700. And then in the elementary gymnasium, they're looking for projectors for community meetings and classes. and they're looking for 64,500. Number 25, the schools are looking for 35,000 to install water bottle refill stations, which are more sanitary than bubblers. Number 26, they're looking for a design plan for Nabnasset School for a walkway and car path, and they're looking for 50,385. Number 27 is the schools are looking for a $2,000 for membership in a Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education program. Number 28, they're looking for 4,400 to hold 2 community workshops with KW Diversity. And number 34 is new. This is the Council on Aging is partnering with the Recreation and Health Department. They're seeking 33,000 to provide financial assistance for participation in the town's after school program or kids club. They've determined there are people in need and they would like to have funding to help those people. And then the last one I think was on, well, I will mention a change. You did have sustainability coordinator for 100,000. We did get that grant. So that did come off, I believe. And economic development put in a request. We didn't have all the details. They're looking for 48,000 to hire a part-time economic development coordinator. And those are all the new requests.
Okay. Dan, I'm just curious if you totaled up all of the new requests. How much does that come to?
Just over $697,000.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I guess the first question to the board is, Jody identified 4 requests as being time sensitive in terms of we should act on them as quickly as possible. They were the internet access to the housing developments, the vote tabulators, the CMMS system, and the Bridge to Success request. Other than those 4 that sort of are looking for us to act as soon as possible, of the rest that Jody named, does anybody have a concern that we should act on them tonight because they're time sensitive, or are you comfortable with sort of putting them in the queue and we'll talk about them over the next several weeks? Okay, I'm not seeing it. Tom is raising his thumb, okay. Jody, yeah.
I just wanted to mention that I did check with Chris Chu on all the school items, and the Bridge to Success was the time sensitive. So I didn't decide that on my own. I wanted you to know that.
I kind of figured that. I should have said that. We should have said that. You're right. John?
I'm comfortable with going with the 4 time sensitive ones and holding the others, because I think there needs to be some discussion about a couple of these.
Yeah, I certainly agree. So looking at the 4 that we have, does anybody have any questions about those 4? Anita?
So I'm in support of the clickers, the electronic vote tabulators, but I guess I have a question about why we would purchase as opposed to rent when I feel like maybe the technology might improve over time. Are we going to be purchasing it, but then if things evolve with their technology, should we consider renting instead?
I know that Angela, our town moderator, Angela Harkness, I know she's done a lot of work and research on that. Is that a question that you can answer? She's got her hand up, so I'm thinking yes.
Yeah, so that decision as to whether to rent or to purchase actually doesn't even have to be made now. If the decision is to purchase, that would be the $12,000 figure. If we decide to rent, it's $4,950. and all of this is subject to the vote at town meeting anyway. The company that I've been dealing with will either allow us to decide in advance to purchase, and if the vote doesn't go in favor, then we don't have to go through with the purchase, or we can pay for a rental and continue renting, or deciding to apply what we've paid for the rental to a purchase. So it's a pretty broad group of choices for us. They're really in our favor. So we can do whatever we decide between now and town meeting. Does that answer the question?
I think, but the second part of Anita's question was, Angela, will they provide, I mean, as technology improves or things change, do they provide technical support for us?
Technical support comes along with it. They're not going to upgrade our system if there's a new system, but they also have, it's a fairly simple operation. It's not something that's really complex. There are certain things they'll do. For example, they've just created clickers that work for people with visual impairments, and they're just providing a certain number of those to anyone who asks for them, who has the system already. They would automatically come with ours. So I think to a certain extent, they'll do some upgrades for us without charge, but they're not going to replace the whole system. Again, though, it's not like a computer that changes every year. That there are towns that have been using this system for more than 5 years now. So,
okay, thank you, Scott.
So it's quick. Is a question? I mean, is the rental cost per meeting or per year?
the rental cost would be per meeting.
So basically, 10 grand on most to rent it and 12 grand to buy it. That's a pretty easy call to make. Okay.
Yeah, I think they want you to buy
it. Jody.
Right. And so the reason why we're asking for this is because, number one, we have to have the clickers for town meeting and we don't have any money to buy them or rent them. Number two, unless we put this in the budget, which is already set, we won't have them for October or March. So this is really covering the cost of June, October, and then March. And really the 12,000, whatever the number, 865 is less than renting them 3 times. So when we studied this a few years ago, the cost to purchase them was a lot higher versus rental, but now it's kind of like, if we get through a year with these, buying them is cheaper than renting, and maybe we can get several years out of them. So that's what the thought was.
Okay. Tom.
I'm wondering if we could invite Dr. Chu just briefly to talk about if this is the second year we're seeing the Bridge to Success program, sort of what happened in the first year, how many students were served, and just a little bit of background. It sounds like an important program, but I just like to hear a little bit more.
Good enough.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Chris.
Delay in joining the meeting when you're watching. So off the top of my head, Tom, I actually don't know how many students were serviced in it. What I do know is that we had hired 12 staff members, and we were able to provide the opportunity to all of our students who had qualified for the program that we ran last year. Last year we had to put certain limitations on it. This year we're prepared, if we get the funding for it, to provide the opportunity to all of the students who are currently receiving interventions, whether it's reading or math interventions already, whereas last year we had to it had to be based on very specific assessment criteria. But that was based on the grant that we were using last year to run the program. So we weren't initially, we didn't have that grant anymore. So we weren't initially planning to run the program. And that's why we're requesting, it was beneficial for the students. It would be something that we'd like to run for 1 more year if we had the ARPA funding. But I just don't have the number of students that we served off the top of my head. So I can't provide that.
Thanks. That's helpful. Thanks.
Okay. Hang on a minute. Okay. I guess I just had one question about the CMMS system, Jody. I know Paul's asking for funding for this year. I assume that this is a system we want to keep in place moving forward. So, again, concerned about future budgets. Are we looking at how we're going to fund this in the future?
Yes, I think that part of the problem with not budgeting for this was it took some time for him to really flesh this out with the DPW and know exactly what they were looking for. So by the time they got that information, I think our budgets were kind of set, and maybe Paul can speak to that. But it is something that we do believe will save the town resources. And we have this kind of ticketing system and technology that works in an outstanding manner. But I don't know if Paul wants to say anything else, but it was the timing that got this off. And as you see, we're only going to need 27,000 in 24 to go forward and so on. But
Paul, I see you've joined us. Do you have anything to add? Or would you like to add anything?
No, just that I worked with DPW director and business director for the schools to try to work out a phase out plan where we could assume there were responsibilities that are needed in future operating costs. And together, the three of us felt very comfortable that we could achieve that with some support. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Paul, is this what we used to call a work order system that you're going in to put in?
Absolutely. So yeah, work order system, asset management system, fleet management system, even some facility condition assessments will be added as part of the portfolio here. All of which are really well received by the MSBA, which will help for some reimbursements down the road.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, are there any other questions about these 4 items?
I do have a summary from Dan on what this would cost if you approve these 4.
Okay.
So the 4 of these are $149,625. If all 4 are approved, we'll have $1,206,000 remaining.
Before the next allotment.
Okay, the next round.
For the next allotment, yep.
Great. All right. I don't see any more questions. Tom, go ahead.
If we're ready, Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion. And if Jody could remind me the line items so I can put the right 4 line items in the motion.
They would be project 1, 4, 9, and 19.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 4 just identified by Jody.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and as I said, for the remaining projects, we will be discussing them at future board meetings and considering them, and we will let you know when. But I suspect that ARPA is going to return as an agenda item on the upcoming select board meetings. Jody?
I'm hoping that's 4/26 because there's some other items that we thought could wait till then, but
yep.
I think we probably need to try to schedule it for the
We
okay.
do have a couple of items that we've already scheduled for 4/26, so we will schedule some others as well. Great, thank you all. All right, we are at our 9:10 item, which is old and new business. And the first is a request to approve and sign the May 3rd, 2022 town election warrant. Jody, do you want to just run through really quickly the warrant? We're not going to talk about the articles tonight, but just
Andrea, did we miss an item?
No, hold on a minute. So what you're doing, Andrea, is we're requesting you approve and sign the town election warrant.
Oh, I'm sorry, the town election warrant. Well, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm further on, but that's what you're doing. So we can pull it up if you'd like to see it.
No, let's just start with, I misread it.
Okay.
I was on old new business, but I misread it. So it's a request to approve and sign the May 3rd, 2022 town election warrant. Is there a motion to approve and sign?
So moved.
And second? Okay, all those in favor, Scott?
Well, I have one question is a sign virtually or just come by town hall to sign?
Sure. Come on by.
No, it was either or. Do we have to come by town hall or do you do it electronically?
Patty, do we have to sign it in person or can we do it electronically?
You can do it electronically.
Excellent.
Okay. I mean, I was anyway, but just to clarify. Okay. Aye.
But you can come by if you want.
I need to know one way or the other.
It's electronically.
Am I doing it electronically? Everybody thumbs up? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't think you voted it yet, though.
We haven't voted. We need to vote. Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we have to consider appointments and terms for the Monuments and Memorials Committee. One update to the list we have, which is David Christiana, Nancy Cook, Marilyn Day, Jackie Feather, Linda Green, Paul Murray, Beaver Rogers, and Terry Stater. Jackie Feather has notified Town Hall that she wanted to withdraw her name from this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 7 applicants for this committee. So is there a motion to approve?
This question is, do you want to set terms now too, or just pick the 7 first?
I guess, what's the pleasure of the board? I don't really care.
May I suggest, I think what might be helpful is that we let the committee determine the terms they'd like to set, and then we can either bring that back to you or you're good with that. Because we like to stagger them.
I'm fine with the committee determining who serves how many, who serves what term.
So I move to accept these 7 applicants as members of the Monument Committee.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for everyone who volunteered. Okay, and then our last item under old and new business is a request from the town clerk to appoint election officers for terms expiring July 31st, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the election officers as found in our packets tonight?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Now we're at annual town meeting, okay?
Okay, Eric's going to pull that up and I'll go through it quickly. So you are setting the warrant, the order of the warrant. I do it pretty much similar every year, but if you want to change something, please let us know. So Article 1 is to authorize the use of the electronic vote tabulators. Number 2 is to accept annual reports. 3 is to approve fiscal year 22 budget supplemental appropriations. 4 is to appropriate for perchlorate expenses. 5 is to consider approval of the capital appropriations. 6 is to appropriate funding for the construction of the new fire training facility. And we just learned that we need to establish a stabilization fund for the $75,000 set aside in case we ever need to move it. So that's why you see a red language here. I wanted to point that out to you. Number 7 is going to be removed. This was for the funding for the 51 Main Street. And we're going to powwow tomorrow about alternatives to pay for that. So we may have a placeholder in here if the board doesn't decide to appropriate ARPA, but we'll work on that tomorrow. Number 8 is to approve Community Preservation Committee recommendations. Number 9 is amending the wage and classification plan, and we have several different changes this year that we have gone to PAC about. 10 is to authorize revolving funds. 11 is the fiscal year 23 operating budget. 12 is to appropriate Chapter 90 for our roadway improvements. 13 is to appropriate funds from the water enterprise OPEB. 14 is part of our new, actually we could probably remove placeholder, but our energy services company. This is part of this energy management services we're doing. And number 15 is for you all to accept easements. These are a lot of different things going on, and we were able to group them all. So I think the moderator may put a hold if there's holds on any of these. The next one is separate because this one might have funding negotiated with the property owners. So we were told we had to put this one separate where the others would not fall into that category. And 17, you just voted tonight to support putting this article forward. We'll remove placeholder on that. 18 is to amend some chapters 51 and 22 in our bylaws that is concerning whether we're going to be mailing the full Finance Committee book to the residents. And 19, zoning bylaw, it's to amend, this is a citizen's petition to amend the zoning bylaw to add 483 to industrial A zoning district. And then 20 is to authorize the Conservation Commission to lease hill orchards. And that's it.
Wow, 18 articles.
I don't think there's ever been one this brief since I've been here.
Any comment, Anita?
And just coming off of the ATM recommendations agenda item where one of the recommendations was kind of shifting around warrant articles. And so if we set this tonight, then is that something we can revisit? I'm just trying to understand the timeline or options.
No, it isn't. And, the only thing that I would kind of suggest is that maybe those recommendations we look at moving forward, because there is a lot of thought behind how we set this up. So I would just be uncomfortable on the fly trying to move things around. Some things impact other things, but that would be my suggestion is we look at that moving forward. But I work at your pleasure, so.
I was just curious, thank you.
I think that makes sense though. Although one of the recommendations I know had to do with the consent agenda and educating people about the consent agenda. So that actually may be a recommendation that we can implement for this town meeting is if or if the town moderator determines that certain articles be presented as part of the consent agenda to educate the town beforehand about what articles are going to be on the consent agenda and how a consent agenda works, and that if anybody has an objection to an article being on a consent agenda, it can be taken off at town meeting and considered separately. But that might be at least one recommendation we can think about implementing for this upcoming town meeting.
I believe the moderator is planning to do that. She already told me that.
Well, okay. All right. So with that, I guess we need what, Jody, a motion to close the warrant and set the order?
Yes, I think you might have already closed it, but that's fine. You're basically setting the order of the warrant, but you can vote to close it too.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, town managers report.
Did you want to say board reports and updates?
Oh, I'm sorry, board reports and updates. I don't see any. Town managers report.
Okay, great. So the first is to request to accept a gift from the Kurt Kelly Memorial Fund in the amount of $1,500 to be used to enhance after-school and summer enrichment programs by the Recreation Department, and to accept a gift from the Friends of the Camera in the amount of $6,500 for the summer dental program and shingles vaccination program as requested by the Health Department. Also request to accept a gift from the CA New Sun Foundation, the amount of $10,500 to fund a one-year subscription of the Cortico Health and Wellness app for public safety departments as requested by the Police Department. Grants, we have the Commonwealth of Mass Community Compact Efficiency and Regionalization Grant, the amount of $94,902 to fund the salary and benefits for the Regional Sustainability Coordinator to be shared with Westford and Carlisle. And then contracts, Clean Harbors for a household hazardous waste collection agreement, the amount of $20,000 as requested by the Recycling Commission. Lowell General Hospital for an advanced life support affiliation agreement as requested by the Fire Department. Brightly Software, Inc. for software services related to asset and computerized maintenance management systems in the amount of $45,460 as requested by facilities, and purchase order modular communications for a base station and GPS system in the amount of $30,267.06 as requested by the Fire Department.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Somebody, is there a second? All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay. Correspondence. Does anybody have any? Jody, you have your hand up. Yes.
Yes, you did receive a letter from the Chelmsford Select Board concerning industrial truck issues, and I do have Jeff Morissette working on a draft response, which we will present to you for review at your next meeting. It's taking some time to put that together, but we will bring it to you at your next meeting.
Great. Thank you to you and Jeff. With that, is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, just everybody, all those in favor, just raise your hands. Okay, and is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Westford. Good night, Westford. Everybody stay safe and be well. Good night,
everyone.